March 2nd, 1999. FedEx 3207, a DC-10 operated by the Federal Express Corporation, departs Portland, Oregon, en route to Memphis, Tennessee. In Los Angeles, California, Connie 303, an L-1011 operated by American International Airways Incorporated, lifts off for Indianapolis, Indiana. Since both aircraft are cargo carriers, neither aircraft is required to be equipped with TCAS. What are the odds that two heavy commercial jet aircraft operating in Class A airspace would arrive at the same point in space, at the same time, at the same altitude, and neither would be in communication with ATC? 1 in a trillion, perhaps?
Now that FedEx 3207 and Connie 303 are running together, and I've tried air rank, and I can't get either one of them.
Can't get either one of them?
Can't get either one of them.
This is not a good situation
at
all, is it?
This is ugly.
Okay, thanks.
I'll do whatever I can.
I'll do it on my end also.
Okay.
Connie 303, center. FedEx 3207, center. Connie 303, center. FedEx 3207 on guard. FedEx 3207 on 121.5. Do you hear me? Connie 303 on 121.5. IDEN. Connie 303, 121.5. IDEN. FedEx 3207, Kansas City. Okay, everybody on frequency, I want you to maintain radio silence unless there's an emergency situation. FedEx 3207, center. FedEx 3207, Kansas City. Calling D-side. Connie 303, Kansas City. Connie 303, center. FedEx 3207, Kansas City.
This mid-air incident was caused by air traffic control and involved 3 en route facilities over a period of 49 minutes. The root cause was the failure of one controller to issue a frequency change to FedEx 3207 and another controller's failure to issue the correct frequency to Connie 303. What other factors contributed to forging the chain of events that would ensure the effects of the initial mistakes could not be corrected nor mitigated?
Let's take a look at the 11 different elements that made up the individual links in the incident chain. The reconstruction of this incident begins with the Federal Express aircraft. Air traffic's handling of FedEx 3207 is routine until the Salt Lake Center Sector 16 controller initiates the handoff to Salt Lake Center Sector 5. Sector 5 accepts the handoff and then immediately initiates a handoff to Denver Sector 32. Denver Sector 32 doesn't accept the handoff and instead contacts Denver Sector 34. The Sector 32 controller agrees to accept a point-out on the aircraft, and Sector 34 agrees to slant OK FedEx 3207 and work the aircraft. Meanwhile, the Salt Lake Sector 16 controller drops the flight data block without instructing FedEx 3207 to change frequencies. The post-incident investigation revealed that the Sector 16 controller was not fully competent on the DSR equipment keyboard. The controller was distracted by trying to remember the correct keyboard entries, and thus failed to perform the other more routine requirements of the position, such as ensuring that a transfer of communications was completed before dropping the aircraft's data block. Thus, the first link in the chain of events is forged. Once the initial mistake had been made, the next opportunity to build or break a link in the chain occurs during the handoff of the aircraft from Salt Lake Center to Denver Center. 4 opportunities occurred during the series of automated handoffs and point-out proceedings involving Sectors 16, 5, 32, and 34. Any one of the 4 controllers could have checked to verify what sector and frequency FedEx 3207 should be assigned. Unfortunately, all 4 apparently assume that the appropriate coordination has been fully accomplished, and the initial mistake goes unnoticed. The chain now has 5 links forged. The next opportunity to break the chain of events occurs at Denver Sector 34. FedEx 3207's flight progress strip indicates that the aircraft has not yet checked on the sector's frequency, but neither the R nor the D side controllers notice. The failure to use the flight progress strip as an informational resource was unfortunate. It robbed the controllers of a vital clue that indicated they should backtrack along the coordination trail to work out what frequency the aircraft was last assigned. Although FedEx 3207 was probably out of range of the Sector 16 controller's receiver by this time, it is possible that the aircraft could have been contacted through another aircraft acting as a relay. Since none of these actions were taken, Link 6 was forged. During the R-34 position relief briefing, neither the R side nor the D side controllers realizes that FedEx 3207 still has not checked on the frequency. The relieving R-34 controller doesn't notice the lack of strip marking on the FedEx 3207 flight progress strip, and subsequently initiates a handoff to the next sector, Sector 33. When R-34 instructs FedEx 3207 to contact Sector 33, he gets no response. After unsuccessful attempts by both R-33 and R-34 to contact the aircraft, it is assumed that radio communications have been lost very recently. That is, while the aircraft was in contact with Sector 34. No attempt was made to check back with the several previous sectors because the Sector 34 controllers did not realize that communications had not been established with them in the first place. The seventh link is now in place. The controllers notify the supervisor, who places a call to AirInc operations located in San Francisco. The supervisor asks the AirInc radio operator to contact FedEx 3207 and tell the crew to contact Denver Center on the Sector 16 frequency. This initial effort will not be successful. The Sector 34 controller writes Nordo on the flight progress strip and verbally notifies the D16 sector controller. However, no entry is made into the computer regarding the aircraft's Nordo status. During the position relief briefing on the D16 position, the relieving controller is not told that FedEx 3207 is Nordo. Thus, when the aircraft is handed off to the sector in the next area, the fact that it is not in communication with ATC is not passed on. Since no entry has been made into the computer, subsequent flight progress strips do not have the notation Nordo in the remarks section. Had the computer entry been made, the next area would not have had to rediscover the fact that FedEx 3207 was not in radio communication with ATC. Due to the lack of communication within the facility, a coordinated effort to regain communications with FedEx 3207 was delayed. The chain now has 8 links. 22 minutes and 27 seconds before the incident, Sector 8 accepts an electronic handoff on FedEx 3207. At this point, no one in the area knows that FedEx 3207 is Nordo. Meanwhile, R-17 accepts the handoff of Connie 303 from R-28. The R-28 controller inadvertently issues frequency 125.67 instead of 127.65. Connie 303 reads back 125.67, but the controller doesn't recognize that the wrong frequency has been issued. Now Connie 303 is no longer in contact with ATC either, and the 9th link is in place. Frequency 125.67 is assigned to Sector 37. A post-incident review of the recorded voice transmissions revealed that Connie 303 did not make radio contact with the Sector 37 controller. This is not surprising, since Connie 303 was more than 260 nautical miles from the sector's radio receiver, which placed them well out of its reception range. 8 minutes and 38 seconds before the incident, the Sector 8 controller attempts to turn FedEx 3207 30 degrees to the right to avoid traffic. Receiving no response, R8 checks back with the Sector 9 controllers, who advised that they had never spoken to the aircraft. The Sector 8 controller then checks with the Sector 16 controllers, who respond that they never talked to the aircraft either. Within moments, the supervisor is now informed that Connie 303 is Nordo. The supervisor contacts AirInc again, and asks them to contact Connie 303 to assign the crew R-17's frequency. Air Inc. attempts to contact Connie 303 twice by radio without success. Air Inc. provides a number of services to the aviation community in the form of voice messaging and data messaging networks. Unfortunately, the two carriers involved in this incident were not subscribers to Air Inc. services, so attempts to contact them through Air Inc. radio or data link were futile. This is the 10th link. With 11 minutes remaining, Air Inc. now attempts to telephone American International Airways Incorporated flight operations in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and the Federal Express operations in Memphis, Tennessee. With 8 minutes and 30 seconds remaining, R-17 tells Kansas City Sector 24 that both aircraft are Nordo and coming together in the Kansas City Center airspace.
Kansas 24, Denver 17 on the 1.
24.
Yeah, that FedEx 3207 and Connie 303 are running together, and I've tried Air Inc. and I can't get either one of them.
Can't get either one of them?
Can't get either one of them.
This is not a good situation
This is
at all,
ugly.
is it?
This is ugly.
Okay, thanks.
I'll do whatever I can.
I'll do it on my end also.
Okay.
Had the FedEx crew attempted to verify that they were still in contact with ATC, it is possible that the chain of links could have been broken. With both aircraft out of communication with ATC, Link 11 is firmly in place. The Kansas City Center supervisor attempts to contact FedEx operations by telephone, but an automated system puts her on hold. She hangs up the phone and attempts to contact American International Airways, but doesn't have the correct phone number. The supervisor contacts the traffic management unit in an attempt to obtain a current phone number, but TMU has the same number that she has already tried. The supervisor dials the FedEx operations number again, and when placed on hold a second time, hands the phone to another specialist.
Connie 303 Center.
With 3 minutes and 45 seconds remaining,
FedEx 3207, Kansas City.
the conflict alert is activated. And the supervisor calls Air Inc. a second and third time in a desperate attempt to contact either aircraft. 1 minute and 6 seconds before the encounter, standard separation is lost. FedEx Operations answers the phone at 38 minutes and 50 seconds past the hour, and the frequency information is relayed. The dispatcher quickly acts to contact the crew. It will be too late to prevent the encounter. Neither crew saw it coming. In one breathless moment, it was over. The DC-10 hit the L-1011's wake turbulence with a solid thud as the aircraft targets merge at 39 minutes and 37 seconds past the hour. The aircraft pass each other 1,500 feet apart at flight level 330. As the radar targets part, the controllers breathe a collective sigh of relief. 1 minute and 59 seconds after the near-midair collision, FedEx 3207 reports on the Kansas City Center Sector 24 frequency.
Kansas City, FedEx 3207. 4 Denver 17. FedEx 3207, got you loud and clear now, sir.
Connie 303 reports on the Kansas City Center Sector 24 frequency 4 minutes and 40 seconds later.
Center, Connie 303, flight level 330. Connie 303, Kansas City Center, loud and clear, and...
A terrible accident is averted due to luck, or perhaps divine intervention.
The circumstances that built the links in this chain of events were rather benign when taken individually. None of the air traffic facilities involved is inherently sloppy. However, the failure of the involved controllers to take care of the details regarding coordination, strip marking, logging, and passing on relevant information, and the crew's apparent complacency set the stage for a near tragedy. Obviously, if the controller at Salt Lake Sector 16 had issued a frequency change to FedEx 3207, it's doubtful that this near-midair collision would have occurred. The flight path of FedEx 3207 could easily have been adjusted to avoid Connie 303 completely. Or, if the Denver Sector 28 controller had been more careful in assigning the correct frequency, Connie 303 could have been moved to avoid FedEx 3207. While a valiant effort was made by both facilities to regain communications with the aircraft, valuable time was lost because the facility did not internally coordinate its efforts to contact the errant aircraft and did not understand how best to reestablish communications with the aircraft through an outside source. Although time may have been wasted with the facility having to rediscover that FedEx 3207 was out of radio contact, the lack of telephone contacts and the mistaken belief that AirInc could contact the flight crews directly contributed to the failure to regain communications with the flight crews quickly. The facility personnel did not realize that the level and type of services vary according to individual carrier needs, and that the most reliable method of contacting a given aircraft when other methods fail is directly through its company dispatch officer rather than relying solely on AirInc as a relay. Now, what about the flight crew's contribution to this incident? The crew of FedEx 3207 had not received instructions to change frequencies. They later reported they could still hear ATC chatter on the frequency. In the western part of the United States, it's not uncommon to travel for relatively long periods without hearing a transmission directed to one's aircraft. This may explain why the crew remained complacent. Since they continued to hear transmissions, all seemed well. On the other hand, had they heard no transmissions at all, they probably would have suspected a radio communications problem. The crew of Connie 303 figured out that a communications problem was afoot when they received no response from ATC during their repeated attempts to report on the newly assigned frequency. Had they returned to their previously assigned frequency, it's possible that radio contact would not have been lost with them. Neither crew saw the other aircraft until after the encounter. The FedEx crew was alerted to the L-1011's presence after they hit its wake turbulence. Of course, had either aircraft been equipped with TCAS, a greater margin of separation would have been obtained. How is it that the aircraft passed each other so closely at the same altitude, yet they didn't see each other before then? The aircraft were operating in Class A airspace, where no aircraft can operate without an ATC clearance. In such an environment, an active visual scan is not a priority, nor should it be necessary. The chance that the crew would visually detect the conflicting traffic was strictly a long shot. It's very difficult to observe traffic, recognize it as a threat, and choose an effective escape maneuver at such closure rates. Moments before the encounter, the FedEx captain temporarily left the cockpit. Had he still been in his seat, it is possible that he might have seen the approaching L-1011 and been able to maneuver his aircraft to avoid its path. Perhaps you can think of additional elements that forge the chain of events or additional factors that may have contributed to the incident. Can you think of strategies to prevent or avoid the same pitfalls for yourself or your facility? There are two major factors that caused this incident. The first was the failure to instruct FedEx 3207 to contact the next sector controller. The second was the failure to recognize that the incorrect frequency had been issued to Connie 303. Additional factors which contributed to the incident were the failure of controllers to coordinate their actions regarding who would work FedEx 3207, inappropriate use of automated transfer procedures, competency failure using new equipment, the failure to maintain the correct status of FedEx 3207 through strip marking, the failure to transfer pertinent control information regarding the status of FedEx 3207 during the position relief briefing, failure of the pilots to recognize the lack of ATC communications with their aircraft, failure of the pilots to reestablish radio contact with ATC after the incorrect frequency was issued, the facility's inability to quickly contact either aircraft's company dispatcher, the lack of TCAS equipment on either aircraft. We can maintain the title and reputation as the safest air traffic system in the world only by our own efforts and attention to detail.